hello everyone. So, my presentation is the perfect conclusion of the panel, because what I would like to discuss today is where we stand as industry in the mental health assessment of the maritime workers from a medical perspective. To start and to be sure that we are talking the same language, I think that the best start is to have in mind the best definition of mental health that we have, that is the one provided by the World Health Organization, that, in my opinion, explains also why mental health is so important, not only at sea, of course, but in general in the life of everyone. So, mental health is defined as a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stress of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. So, of course, it's practically the base of our daily functioning. If we are mentally healthy, we are capable to realize all our potential. And this is, in my opinion, the perfect link with performance and safety on board. It's a global concern nowadays. Maybe it's a generational problem. Here I was willing to put some numbers of the general context, not only the maritime industry. So, as you can see here in the number, 970 million of people, so 1 in 8 people in the world is suffering in this moment for a kind of mental illness, such as, for example, depression or anxiety. For what concerns the workers, 15% of workers are struggling with mental health condition. And as you can see from the other numbers, 12 billion of working days are lost in the general population of workers worldwide. And 1 trillion of cost in terms of loss in productivity and lives are estimated to be the cost of mental illness. What about our target population, that is the maritime workers? So we call now the silent crisis, but luckily nowadays the stigma was removed, and now we are here today talking about mental health at sea, something that maybe 20 years ago was completely unknown. But from these numbers, in my opinion, the most impressive one is the 11% of death at sea that we can attribute to suicide. So last year, the death at sea for accident was 99%, 11% was due to suicide. And we have a lot of cases that are uncertain, I mean lost at sea, that we cannot be sure that was a suicide. 25 to 30% of seamen declare that they sometimes have symptoms connected with depression and anxiety, and 20% occasionally have suicidal thoughts. Of course, here in this room, we all know the specific maritime stressors, so I don't want to repeat once again that the stressors are from every single side of the life at sea, starting from psychosocial stressor, environmental stressor, operational, and circadian. But I repeat, I don't want to say again that seafaring profession is one of the most stressful. And I always say that I'm, first of all, the daughter of an ex-seafarer, so I know very well how tough is life at sea. But to try to dive deep into a new concept that came out last year in a very interesting study. I'm also pursuing a PhD doctorate in an Italian university on psychometrics applied to maritime industry. So this framework was originally applied to space mission and Antarctic mission. And it was applied by human factor scientists and psychologists. So what we mean for ICE environment framework? It's a sort of description of this kind of environment that is isolated, and the ship, of course, is an isolated environment, confined, because someone defined the ship like a hole in the water, for the isolation that they feel, and the extreme condition in which they live. So this framework helps to understand all the elements that can trigger and can deteriorate the performance and, in this case, the mental health of the person that must work and live in this kind of situations. The reason is that, of course, if the mental health is deteriorated, our capacity to deal with decision is ruined. Our capacity to focus our attention and to manage our emotions is not so well. And also our capacity to deal with other people, especially in confined space like the ship, could be compromised. So we were talking this morning about the cost in terms of human error. For example, from a recent survey and recent analysis and statistics, 27% of maritime accidents are due to emotional dysregulation. It means in psychology that the person in a certain situation was not capable to handle the emotional side of the situation with other people, with the stress coming from the situation. So it's a huge number, in my opinion. Of course, we are dealing now with, and this morning a lot of time I heard the fact of the turnover or people that want to quit the job. Of course, if I feel that my health is being ruined by my job, I don't want to do my job anymore. And this is a high cost for all the company. And in my opinion, what is the status of the psychological evaluation of the seamen nowadays? During the pre-medical examination, we have the part also of the psychological exam. But the problem is that the tool that we use today is focused on the personality profiling of the workers. So it is completely, it's okay, it's good to know if a person is extrovert, is a good leader, but this not say to us nothing about the health, the mental health of the person. And of course, a lot of tools are not tailored on the seafaring population. So in my opinion, what must be done in the industry, but also maybe with some regulation, because nowadays it's not mandatory to evaluate, psychologically speaking, the crew before on board like other high-risk job environment. So a comprehensive and holistic approach to psychological evaluation of the crew. Of course, also a longitudinal monitoring of the situation, because maybe someone, after the second contract, can start to deteriorate the mental health. So it's not enough only one evaluation every 5 years, like sometimes they did in some companies. Of course, evaluate someone from a psychological perspective is not so simple. So we need more than one approach and more than one tool. So first of all, in my opinion, nowadays it's essential to evaluate the mental health status of the crew with some tools that are capable to detect the level of anxiety, depression, and also the predisposition to develop under stress this kind of issues. Then, of course, for what concerns soft skill, that this morning were also another trend topic, In my opinion, another good measurement of level of a lot of soft skills is the emotional intelligence construct that is, in my opinion, the umbrella of a lot of skill and quality that a person must have to collaborate, to work well in group. And then also from a neuroscientific perspective, and it's starting now also in some company, the evaluation also of the physiological response to stress through, for example, biofeedback and neurofeedback. So, of course, the road is very long. In my opinion, a lot was done in the few years, especially after COVID. And this roadmap, this implementation, it's necessary nowadays. And we need the collaboration of everyone. Companies, of course, also Siemens, that sometimes are not so happy to complete psychometric questionnaire and test. And the implementation in the short term, in my opinion, is to identify a battery of tests and tools that are capable to give us this kind of information. So from a mental health perspective, cognitive perspective, and stress resilience perspective. And we have the tools in psychometry to do that. And of course, in the long term, also some regulations must change. And in my opinion, it's unbelievable that in an industry like the shipping industry, where the stress is very high, it's not mandatory to test seafarers before to go on board. So, ROI also for me, of course, the return of the investment that, of course, we have to do to implement this kind of strategy is maybe, we hope so, maybe more retention of the crew, because if the crew is not triggered by mental health issues, can embrace in a different way this profession. Of course, the productivity, if someone is in the best condition possible to work, will be enhanced. And also a competitive advance for the company that will choose to care for the mental health of the seamen, not only in words, but also with some structured and scientific intervention, in my opinion, will be paid back with the commitment and with the best performance on board. So thank you very much for the attention. Thank you.